Alright, time to break out the tier list. You got the good movies, you got the really good movies, and then you got the masterpieces. If you haven't watched these, shame on you. And then you get the big boys. These movies are some of my all-time favorites. They are the reason I love animation and film as a medium. So let's get it started. Ratatouille is an absolute delight of a film. This is hands down the most underrated Pixar movie of all time. Every scene and location is dripping with atmosphere, from the cold isolation of a sewer to the sensory cornucopia of a food cellar. Nearly every frame of this movie expresses such an exquisite feeling of wonder and joy. But aside from the atmosphere, this movie just feels the most sophisticated out of Pixar's entire catalog. It genuinely feels like a smart indie movie made for adults, from the pacing to the dialogue to the humor. That's the magic of Brad Bird's writing. His Pixar movies, even the weaker one, have dialogue that feel like they were written specifically for adults, but can still be followed and enjoyed by children. Most Pixar movies, as good as they are, feel like they were written primarily for kids, with adults also being able to enjoy them. This movie is the inverse. It fully immerses itself in the language of cooking, the rich beauty of Paris, the nature and deconstruction of criticism, and the importance of following your dreams. It seems like a simple message, but the way this movie develops it and represents this theme through multiple characters is just fantastic. This movie has story structure problems. I mean, Remy doesn't talk for a solid 30 minutes in the movie, and maybe one or two subplots could have been cut to tighten the script a bit. But at the end of the day, I don't even care. This movie absolutely soars due to a wonderfully realized world, great characters, a rich, mature story, and some of my favorite scenes in any film, let alone animated film. I have a soft spot for Persepolis, but of course Ratatouille deserved its Oscar. It's a masterwork that Pixar has not topped since, and I hope more people really start giving it the respect it deserves. It's such an incredible experience, and you should watch it right after this video is over. Yep. It's that good. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse should not even be a real movie. I'm shuddering at the amount of effort it must have taken to craft every inch of this incredible world, brought to life in the most gorgeous style of any animated film I've ever seen. If all 3D animation looked this good, I'd almost be okay with leaving 2D animated films behind forever. Please note I said almost. This movie's fluid, eye-popping visuals, which make every character and action beat leap off the screen, is honestly just a small piece of the amazing puzzle. I'm not one to lavish gorgeously animated movies with praise if I don't find the story or characters compelling. Fortunately, Spider-Verse swings past this issue with a mature, well-written story that strikes a perfect balance between levity, excitement, genuine heartbreak, and for lack of a better word, magic. This is that rare movie where nearly everything works to an amazing level. I laughed out loud at least a dozen times on my 6th viewing of the movie. The emotional beats choke me up every time. The action is so fast yet so fluid and easy to follow, making for an experience that's enthralling, smart, funny, and unlike any other movie that's ever been made. I bought every single thing about Miles, from his struggle with adapting to a new school and his spider powers, his connection to his dad and uncle, his relationship with Peter B, everything. When he finally masters his powers, it feels like a genuine triumph. It makes me want to get up and cheer in a way that so few movies have ever done. Honestly, I still can't believe this exists. It's just an instant classic, and I have not been able to stop thinking about it. Obviously, it deserved its win. The fact that Ralph Breaks the Internet was in the same category as it is embarrassing. Check it out if for some reason you haven't seen it already, because animation this inventive, mature, hysterical, and powerful deserves to be rewarded. I also highly recommend checking out CinemaWin's video on the movie, which highlights so many amazing little details that I could never fully go into. But I did want to mention my personal favorite detail. Not only is Miguel in this movie, but he's the guy who shot at Gwen's dad in Her Dimension. Now that is attention to detail. Congrats, Spider-Verse, you retroactively made Coco better. Now I can say for sure that it's better than Boss Baby and deserve the Oscar. Thank you and good night. This is it, Chief. The peak of computer animation and superhero movies. This is my favorite Pixar movie, and I don't think it's hard to see why. It has one of the smartest scripts I've ever seen in any movie, period. Just like Ratatouille, this is a movie made specifically for adults, with the added bonus of being enjoyable for kids. There is not a second of this movie that feels like it's talking down to its audience. Every scene is conveyed with a striking sense of realism, despite the fantastical superpowers being displayed. Every emotional beat and interaction works. Bob and Helen's struggle struggling marriage is portrayed so realistically, almost uncomfortably so at certain times. There's just so many lines of dialogue in this movie that I want to print out and frame somewhere. I love Edna's rant about capes and how it comes back in the ending. Speaking of which, Syndrome is such a fantastic villain in every way. Campy, hilarious, and kinda pathetic, yet legitimately intimidating at the same time. It's only fitting he gets this movie's most iconic line.
And when everyone's super, no one will be.
I also love how this movie is one of Pixar's most emotional, and it doesn't feel like it's even trying to be. There's no scene like the opening of Up or Finding Nemo, or the end of Toy Story 3 where they try to tug at your heartstrings. You're just taken in by the rich themes and incredibly strong relationships between the family members. It feels effortless, which, again, is the magic of Brad Bird's writing. Dude, I don't even know what else to say. It's just flawless. I'm very passionate about the other two movies it won the Oscar against, in very different ways. But come on. It's The Incredibles. Every time I watch this movie, it just gets better and better. And I have no qualms calling it my favorite animated movie ever made. Wait, why is it not number 1? Let's be honest. You knew what number 1 was going to be before you clicked on the video. Spirited Away is not a movie. It is an ethereal, immersive, unforgettable experience that leaves you a changed person by the end. From the moment I first saw this movie, I knew that it was a masterpiece and the best animated film I had ever seen. But for the life of me, I could not figure out why. The plot seems really basic at first, right? Chihiro and her parents find some food. They eat the food. They become pigs. Now she has to get a job cleaning a bathhouse and wacky hijinks ensue. It doesn't seem special on paper, so why was this movie speaking to me in a way that no other movie had before? Well, I think I finally figured it out. So allow me to attempt to describe my feelings about this movie even though words could never really do it justice. Spirited Away is a movie about growth. Chihiro starts the movie out very sheltered and scared of everything. But through struggles, hardships, smiles, and tears, she matures into a confident young woman who helps not only herself and her parents, but the people around her. It is through her unwavering compassion that she saves Haru and No-Face, setting them both free in the process. Every victory she achieves feels earned because the movie takes its time to establish the perils and wonders of the world she now inhabits. And when I say establish, I don't mean through needless exposition. The movie simply shows us one of the most creative, beautiful, endlessly expressive fictional worlds ever conceived, and moves forward with the confidence that we can pick up the rules of this world as we go along, just like the main character does. This makes for an immersive experience that never talks down to its audience. There is no villain in this movie, just real people with easily understood relationships and emotions. The sheer power this movie can convey through raw simplicity, from Chihiro pulling garbage out of a river spirit, to sitting in a field and breaking down crying as the weight of her situation overwhelms her, to sitting on a train and being overtaken by the serene ripples of the water and the spirits passing by. You know what? Nothing I could ever say could do this movie justice. It's just magic. Pure, unfiltered, real-life magic. If you haven't seen it, just watch it, and then you'll realize why no other movie could have topped it on this list. The Incredibles is just barely my favorite animated movie, the one I drop everything to rewatch on the most regular basis, but Spirited Away is the best. There has never been, and probably never will be, anything quite like it. And there's something very special about the only traditionally animated film on this list being